Thank you. So I'd just like to firstly give a warm welcome to our panelists for building organizational culture. Please give them a huge round of applause. And I'd ask you, because I want to get straight into the discussion about culture and organization. If you could just, you've already introduced yourself earlier, so I'm going to skip you. Neha, we're done. The three panelists, if you could just briefly introduce yourself.
Namaste. Thank you all. Thank you all for welcoming me here today, and I'm humbled to be part of this panel. Just a quick introduction, I've been in India for the last 20 years working in different projects that are in the nonprofit sector, working a lot with community and team building, and really just looking at meaningful ways to serve the community. So, thank you.
Hi, I'm Bryan. I think probably most of you know me because I'm such a great singer. I've been with O2H now for just under a year. I obviously work out of the amazing Hawkston House. You just saw a video of it there. And I wasn't at the board meeting yesterday, unfortunately, because I was a little bit ill. But I wanted to say then, and I want to say it now to you guys, that I'm very privileged to work at such an amazing place. And the reason I work there is because of all the hard work you've done over the years, with O2H. If it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be working at such an incredible place. And I know you've got new buildings coming along now at O2H, and I know they're going to be just as good, because there's a gentleman over here that's sort of driving that. So I just wanted to say that first. But I'm Bryan, I'm a biologist, and I work at O2H. Thank you.
I am Dhinal Shah. I'm by qualification chartered accountant and lawyer. I was heading EY Gujarat practice for last 13, 14 years, and I just started my own legal practice to become a lawyer.
Fantastic. Welcome to all of you. Thank you very much. So I'm going to jump straight into the most probably tricky question for this panel. What is meant by culture, and how do you define culture? To you first, Sandy.
Interesting question. Definition of culture. I guess you guys are all biologists, chemists. Culture is something that grows from nothing. So from the very basic seed, something that grows is culture. And so that's the core responsibility of whosoever is the person who's leading the organization, who is starting the organization, to have those seeds right in the right place, so that eventually, once the culture is built, as it grows, as it evolves, with everybody's input, it becomes the best possible culture for that kind of an organization.
Thank you. What a wonderful definition to kick things off. Who would like to jump in next?
I'd rather answer last. Please.
Another juice.
Yeah, sure. I would believe culture means all about your values, your ethical conduct, and like in a medical language, you use the word cultural taste, where you go to the root of the problem, and your values, your conduct, and particularly when people have certain way of behaving, and particularly on the hypocrisy side, it does reflect a culture from the family, from the society where you are grown, and a part of the life and a society. So ultimately, if you have good ethical values, good professional life, good contribution to the society, you are able to develop your culture in a positive way.
Yeah, that is a tricky question because it wasn't on my list of questions you were going to ask.
Got to keep you on your toes, right?
So yeah, I'll echo the answers made previously. Obviously, as a biologist, a culture is that little thing that grows on a plate from nothing, if you like, or what you grow in cell culture. But no, much more than that. It's just that. It's really hard to explain. It's the feeling you get when you walk into somewhere. You immediately feel that this is going to be a good place, or this is not going to be not such a good place to work in, and you get the vibes coming through that, and you can meet people within an organisation, and immediately you can tell. And I think that all comes from the culture that has been instilled by the founders or the people that have been in an organisation some time.
It is a lovely question. I would say that culture is sort of an intangible force that informs and inspires a space and the people and how they work in that space and why we do it. I think it plays a big role in building clarity in why we do what we do and how we do it. And I think that makes or breaks the success of most things. So,
Thank you. And
Why we
yeah.
do it and how we do it matters, and for whom we do it. So yeah, that is the correct culture. Combination of why, what, and for whom. If we really combined it with passion, compassion, and equality, I think that's the great way of working culture. Yeah.
Okay, does somebody want to give an example of a good culture and some of the happy things they've seen in a culture, and maybe examples of things where you mentioned hypocrisy, where culture can go wrong? So any of you can jump in. Good, bad elements or facets of a good or a negative culture.
I think for us, there are two key things. One is a never give up attitude. You can't say no till the time you have tried everything within your capability. That drives us. And I think the other thing is basic honesty. As earlier it was being said, you can fail, it's all right. You can fail again. You're trying to do something new, it's for the first time. Nobody knows where the future is. But being honest, as long as whatever you're doing, you're right up front with what you are, who you are, it's perfect. And it doesn't matter who you are. You may be different from others. You don't need to conform to everybody around you. You may be whosoever you are. Just be honest to yourself and the people around you. Stay happy. That's it.
Thank you.
I personally feel very small thing, one-liner in our drama field, they say one-liners, bade marti hai. So the one-liner for this is, understand the difference between getting angry and putting someone down. I think if we don't put people down for their mistakes, we can have a better work atmosphere. And if we don't take those angers of our seniors and of our bosses seriously, and too much on our heart, then it also can be managed. Because nowadays I'm seeing that anybody saying, any senior is saying anything to anyone, they will feel, why did you tell me? Earlier the Indian culture was, if some senior is saying something even in anger, you listen to it, take the crux of the story and move on, because it is going to be better for your future. So if we can gel this too and get some way out of it, we can have a better working culture.
Thank you. Very great. Some great points coming up here. Yeah?
I'll jump in with something very quickly, and then Bryan can go. I've been really lucky to see some pretty amazing organizations out there, and I think a big part of all of their successful cultures is that there is a sense of ownership, there is the power of shared purpose, and there is sort of space for everybody. So instead of it being exclusive or only for a specific few, it's about bringing out the best in each person and allowing that to blossom, but towards sort of a shared goal. And I would say that I think that's sort of some of the critical pieces I've seen in every organization that I feel has been quite sort of positive in what it allows. So, yeah.
Thank you.
For me, it's trust, basically. One of the sort of cornerstones of O2H is be brave. Be brave, but to be brave, you've got to be able to trust, your boss or your leader, and he's got to be able to trust you. So if I'm going to be brave, I'm going to take a risk. I know that Prashant, for example, isn't going to come down on me. Why did you do that? Blah, blah, blah. He's going to actually understand, as long as I've not been reckless. He's going to understand what I've done. So I think trust is the key thing. Between everyone in any organisation. We all trust each other to do the right thing and to do the best that we can.
See, first thing in our professional life, everybody is human. Then everybody is playing their individual role. Somebody is at junior level, somebody at middle level, somebody at senior level. But if you respect and maintain a self-esteem of every individual and human being, and then try to inculcate culture of honesty, ethical values, then every person should have a right to contribute. He may be right or he may be wrong. Because one thing at least I have learned in my life, there is nothing right or wrong. It is all about how do you look at a particular thing in a particular perspective. And if you try to understand the other's perspective better, issues, then I think the majority of the problems are solved.
Thank you very much. Anjali, I have to admit, I've never learned more about culture than hanging around with you and the people that you hang around with as well. Because I don't think you can learn more about culture than when you work in the non-profit world. Because the values of these organizations are extremely pure and extremely clean. And the way you motivate people is not about money. It's about doing the right thing, contributing yourself, and making a larger impact on society through your own effort and your love to want to do something with meaning and purpose. So how would you describe how the culture in, say, a non-profit or some of these organizations that you work in emerge and evolve?
Okay, that's a good question, Prashant. So I would say that I would go back to the shared purpose piece of it. I think that's really important, having this sort of goal that everyone's walking towards and feeling a sense of ownership over it. So whether you're sitting at the desk or you're in the field or you're volunteering or you're supporting it through contributions or donations, that I think really brings everything together. And it doesn't really matter what your background is, because when you see that you're contributing to that, I think it really pulls everything together. The nonprofit world is a lot about intrinsic motivation, right? And the beauty of anything when you're serving in any capacity is that you get to see the fruits of it sort of in front of you. And I think that's often a motivating piece in the beginning when people join the world. And then you also have a much longer vision to understand that, you keep going. So that's one big part of it. Another piece, I think, are the people who anchor these spaces. So it's not just about the founders, it's not just about sort of the senior members, but every person who comes in there and feels like, hey, this is my organization, when they practice a certain set of values and they really anchor the space, that is really powerful, because anybody who comes into that space can't help but feel moved to bring that into their lives and into the work they're doing. And I think that's probably, in my humble opinion, one of the most important elements.
Thank you so much for that.
Yes.
Thank you. Sandy, now, through your work, you're passionate about innovation. So what do you think kind of culture is good for innovation and free thinking and collaboration?
That's a difficult question in the Indian context. We are so tuned to our right and wrong, and you rightly said that there's nothing right or wrong. We, in our context, the way we are brought up, we are so tuned to this is right and that's wrong, starting from our religion. In no way I'm trying to demean anybody here, but what we learn is not how to progress. What we learn, how to not to do things and how to do things. And progress will happen. It's a given. Sacrifice is the key as far as Hinduism is concerned. We are born and brought up with the thought of let go, sacrifice. And of course, there are a lot of other values. But what that does to us is that, as she rightly said, you remember she said that, right? जब काम करना है, जब तक कर सकते हो करो, फिर छोड़ दो. नहीं होता है, difficult situation है, तो let go. So I think that's the key that we try and counter as an organization. You can't let go just because you thought that my values say that you should let go. At this point of time, it's fine. There's no point in struggling anymore. So for innovation, you have to iteratively keep working and keep working and keep working without knowing, is it 5 more iterations, is it 20 more iterations, or it is 5,000 more iterations. And when you don't have that visibility of how many more iterations, processes are the key that can help you continue to work. Your understanding and your guesstimates as to how many more iterations you need before you can conclusively say, yes, this is possible, or no, this is not possible, eventually becomes the key. So keep the emotional side aside, keep the thought from within that comes, oh shit, I may not be able to do it. The biggest problem with most of us is this thought.
Is it fear? Do you think let's say as a culture we're taught, almost like what Neha was saying, you're from your parents, don't do this, these bad things are going to happen. Is that anti-creativity, anti-innovation, or is that fear a necessary element of caution?
I think all philosophies are based on either fear or love. More of them are based on fear. You remember those photographs where when you go to heaven and when you go to hell, what happens? And when you, as a child, when you're used to seeing those, it is enforced in you that this is wrong and you should not do it. And what is wrong? In my childhood, failure is wrong. You can't fail in a class. You can't fail in a subject. You essentially can't fail in anything. And in India, if you fail in something for the rest of your life, you failed in that thing, right? It's difficult to rebuild after failure. And I think that is something that you have to let go if you have to innovate. That's the core, right at the core. Failure is learning versus failure is, oh shit, something bad happened. I failed.
Dinesh, you've had a long career, you've seen a lot. How important is it to kind of unlearn something when you've learned something and you still need to learn it?
So Prashant, learning, unlearning and relearning is a cycle, and everybody, either as a professional or as a human being, one has to change with the time. Before 20 years, the technology was not there, but today everybody has to use the technology. So similarly, in any professional life, I have learned that if you do your work with passion, commitment and sincerity, with all honesty, I don't think nothing can stop.
These are kind of our new UK headquarters, which have recently renovated an old building, and we put a lot of love and care and passion into it. Yes, it was a joy to renovate the old building, but more than that, we felt we were setting a marker for the culture of the organization. So how much do you think that context and environment can influence culture?
Very interesting and very nice setup, I would say, brilliant. But to answer this, in Ahmedabad, you can look at Indian Institute of Management, and you can look at NID. So if you go to NID on the second floor, everything is glass. All studios are interconnected, huge, large, open spaces. So by the time I would reach product design studio, I have passed through the animation design studio, I have passed through the graphic design studio. I know what people are doing in glass. Because the expectation is that you imbibe it all, because as a designer, you need to kind of know something about everything so that when you're doing whatever you're doing, you can bring in ideas from all over the place. You have to think outside the box all the time. And if you go to IIM, it's dark. It has sharp corners. And if you go into a hostel room, it's one small place with one light where you can focus and work. So if I have to read 300 pages overnight, in that environment, it's perfect. I can read those 300 pages, I can culminate whatever my thought process is, and tomorrow answer your questions. You can't do that at an ID. But if I have to diverge, I can do that a lot there. So it's all about convergent thinking, divergent thinking, and what the job profile is. So if you're supposed to, at present, think divergently, you need to expand. You need to have high ceilings on your head so that your mind can expand and you can think. But then when all what you have thought through, when you have to put it together and make a concise summary that really is impactful in a nutshell, makes sense, write a book that's going in the market, you need a closed space, you need focused lighting, you need to be able to put all that together in a focused way and do a brilliant job, no distractions. So to your point, it's all about context. So it's a great building because in that environment, in those spaces, people really need to work in a focused way and come up with something that becomes meaningful.
Thank you. Does anybody else, last question from the audience, does anybody, yeah, thank you. Ooh. Let me share it.
Mic is coming to you.
Where's Sharon?
This is wonderful. Thank you so very much. My question is that in organizations, a lot of people in today's changing world are coming for different reasons. So they're not always able to walk the same path towards the shared goal. So how do you, in today's world, help people build a shared vision and or at least figure out what their common goal is to build a culture?
to anybody, if anybody
I
wants to
think
pick
we
that
should
up.
all say one lines, but I would rather say that in any culture, when you really get confused, what I have learned is understand those metaphors, like those lines we have been hearing, you know, kahavat or punchlines or anything. Unity in diversity. If we understand and follow this in our daily practice, we can actually create a beautiful working culture. As the gentleman said that, you know, depending on the work and the final result, the kind of you want to give an impact on. We have to build different places, different things like that. But that is what is all about. We all are so many. Our minds, our body, our soul, our cells, our body cells, we don't know where we have come from and what actually we are going to build out of it. So if I can give you one consideration that, okay, if she's like this, then no matter what she is, but if she's happy and helpful to this particular work, then whatever she or he is. So let us all try and understand the old school values, which we are unknowingly, not only Indian values I'm saying, old school civilization values are also values. Old school countryside values are also values. If we put that into modernization and the way of different culture working, I think things can really be easy. And seniors, juniors, we all are one. Today you shout, tomorrow I may. Forgiving is the best medicine, you know.
Is Sherin here? Where is she? I can't see you. Sherin, look, for all of you who don't know, Shabu Thomas was he joined us in 2006 and he rose to become a director, and he epitomized everything we loved about O2H. In fact, he was the heartbeat of the O2H culture, and everybody who knew him loved him. Sherin is his wife. Sadly, Shabu was last here. We saw him all 2 years ago on this lectern giving the kind of the goodbye speech. It's almost like a memory of 2 years ago, the last time we all saw him in this audience. Sherin, what would you like to say about Shabu, culture, organizations? Would you just like to give us, firstly, give a huge round of applause to Sherin.
Hello. Yeah. So it's good hearing the panelists, and when it comes to culture, or when I think about Shabu, putting people first is what he always used to do. Listening to them, hearing their concerns, and identifying where can, the values can be aligned. That's what he used to do. And I feel that culture is a very complex system. So for that, putting the employee first is very, very important. And also thinking about what is the purpose why we are all here together. If that purpose, as some of you have said, we have to align it with everyone. We have to, culture is all about people. So I work with Pratham Education Foundation. It's a NGO that works on building the education, bringing the quality, increasing the learning levels of children in India. What we do is that we go to the community, we talk to our people, we sit down with them, putting our trust and confidence in them. And some of you have also mentioned honesty, integrity. I think this is all what Shabu was all about. And I think that's why he was being loved, because he always was listening, I think those who listen well can respond well. And we are all, because we are all so reactive, before asking a question, we react. So I think that listening is very, very important value in any organization. And being leaders, how we behave with others is also equally important, I think, even before value. Because people look up to you, and if your action doesn't match your values, then you are giving the wrong message. So I think that's what Shabu was
Small
about.
little line, Prashant, I would interrupt into, as audience will be able to understand. In social media, when we are shooting, lot of seniors, I used to wonder before I entered an acting field, Ram Bhagwanji, somebody saw him smoking a cigarette off the floor. And he printed everywhere at that time, oh, Ram Bhagavan smoking, Ram Bhagavan smoking. Okay? It's perception. Sometimes if you get angry also fine, but what that anger was for. And as she correctly said, person matters, not the placement where they are coming from. And great listening is the best skill, I think. Lovely. Many a time happens when we dress up and we're fighting. And some crowd, they would come and click a picture, बोलते अरे देखो वहाँ पे तो झगड़ा कर रही थी यहाँ कैसे मुस्का रही है. So I need to know why I was fighting, why am I smiling, what other person will take out of it, and how actually along with it I can keep the decorum of the floor. So it is understanding, give and take, and pursuing life together matters a lot to me. That's what.
Thank you. I'd like to thank Sherin.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Sherin, for that wonderful insight, really. What a wonderful, timely reminder of kind of the life lessons which Shabu taught us in his life, and he continues to remind us about for timeless lessons of just listening, compassion, having a big heart, wonderful life lessons there, beyond even building organization design and culture. I think, and I'm going to leave it on that note. I'm going to let Sherin have the last word on this panel discussion. And with that, I'd love to encourage all of you to give our amazing panelists a huge round of applause and thank you. Wonderful discussion. So if you wouldn't mind all coming back in 10 minutes, have a really fast cup of chai, jaldi jaldi pee le, pachao, ajibo, kamche, karawanu. So please hurry, run, drink your tea, come back in 10 minutes. Thank you.